Hey guys, apologies, my slides are very last minute, and I think they're really just if you want to glaze over. But my talk today is on how AI won't replace the audit industry at all, but what we'll do is it'll clean it up. So what does that mean? AI does not replace auditors. In fact, it actually helps the best auditors. Okay, sorry, down there. Okay, so when we started Olympix in 2022, about 90% of exploited contracts were audited. That's still the case. How does that happen? Well, the top 5, 20, 30% of auditors actually don't get their hands on all the audits. And even when they do, what falls short is that they spend a lot of time on things that teams internally can do. So when we talk about AI kind of exposing the bad auditors, it's hard to see it right now. When we will see it is in this next wave once teams begin integrating AI and tooling correctly, and we'll be able to trim the fat. Okay, so what else? Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. Okay, so the industry problem today is like I said, a lot of auditors are relying on kind of a template, or how do I see a vulnerability that I've seen before, as opposed to having the time to really think about what is this attack surface, what is the intent and intended logic of this protocol, and how can I exploit it? And that's something unique to a human. Now, what ends up happening is they don't even get the time to dig into here because they're time crunched, and they're really spent just looking for patterns, taking existing vulnerability classes, and just trying to find them within the audit, which leads to, again, we're coming back to the same problem, so it's really like chicken and egg of having to go and get a second, third audit for these protocols. So it's really not working right now. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves with the amount of money exploited, and the only solution moving forward is to integrate not just AI tooling, but really true deterministic tooling, and it can be leveraged by AI, but within the CI/CD pipeline or ahead of the audit, or even, let's say, if there are multiple auditors given to your report, to have one of them focused on tooling results. And I personally, on a biased view, think the best way to approach this problem is to have internally within a team utilizing tooling, and that tooling can be leveraged with AI, or it can just be pure deterministic tooling. So what does AI do really well? Like I said, deterministic. So anything like static, if X is true, tell me why. Does that fabulously. What else does it do really well? Exhaustible. So again, I'm not talking about like LLM wrappers. I'm talking about when we're using agentic systems given really quality information. So maybe information from tools. And there are things that LLM wrappers do well, right? Like pattern driven, if we see a logic vulnerability, or not a logic, sorry, a vulnerability that we can see on multiple contracts, and maybe each contract looks a little different, and deterministically we can't solve that, but from a pattern perspective, an AI LLM wrapper would do fabulous at that. But an AI agent would do really well taking results from deterministic systems and actually orchestrating and finding where the vulnerabilities can take place. So there's a lot of things that AI does really well, and also like exhaustive, for example, like if we use AI to find every path we can fuzz, or exhaustive fuzzing, exhaustive exploration of code paths. That's great. That's also not really feasible for a human to do. So we're kind of splitting these two things, which is like, what can a human do really well and what can a machine do really well, as opposed to what can a human or machine do the same. And I think when you begin to split it that way, you begin to realize that the future of security in this space really looks like, okay, we have tooling that does all this exhaustive, annoying work, and maybe agentic systems use this tooling to produce really easily digestible results, but also we have the human using their time productively. And then that comes to like what AI can't touch. So oftentimes I talk to auditors, and we work so closely with so many incredible auditors, and they say they spend way too much time trying to understand like what is the logic of this what is the logic of this protocol, and then how can I break it? And when their time is spent on things that, again, going back, a machine can do much better, can do much more productively, I'll just say it that way. Like mutation testing, for example. Like no one wants to do that exhaustively on their own, but if they can just leverage a machine, great. But when an auditor actually has that time to understand the protocol logic, understand misaligned incentive structures, economic attacks, have that conversation and dialogue also with the team and protocol architecting it, they can do what a machine can never do. So I think that kind of brings us just to the last slide, which I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. I'm not really a slides girl. This is just something that I truly believe, so I can kind of go on a long straight tangent on it. But essentially the auditor of the future, what it really looks like is it means internal teams audit themselves first with tooling, with exhaustive measures. And again, this isn't just AI tooling, but perhaps it's deterministic tooling where agentic systems help you. Or perhaps it's LLM wrappers in some capacity if you can get to a really good outcome with false positive rate, which is a whole nother problem. But it does not look like an auditor having all the load on their shoulder, which is probably like the biggest shortcoming of today, which is we don't set our best auditors up for success, and we set our worst auditors up to find things, even if they just use tooling, because you don't do it yourself. And then you're not able to actually figure out who is the good auditor and who is, just medium of the pack, which is really bad for the protocol, for every person who is putting money into what you've worked so hard to build. And it's bad for your company because, again, the state of your security is the state of your company. And so you really have to think about who you internally own with tooling the security posture.